All right, what's up, y'all, and welcome to Teaching Tuesday. Today, we are going to go over how to make your chords more bluesy, a la Jimmy Smith, Kenny Burrell, George Benson, Oscar Peterson, etc., etc., etc. Definitely more of a sort of like an organ thing, soul jazz, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to play an A section on a tune called Since I Fell For You, which is kind of like a blues ballad, and we're going to be in the key of B flat. It's mostly just 1, 6, 2, 5s, but I'll play it for you, and I'll play it and I'll tell you what it is later. Here we go. All right, so let's get to the bottom of this. Let's dissect what I'm doing here. So there's a couple ground rules I want to go over when you are comping in a more of a bluesy style. There's a couple things that we want to try to just ground rules that we want to establish first. So we want to use a lot of dominant chords. So anything that could possibly be a dominant chord, we're going to make a dominant chord. In this instance, I think everything I did was dominant. And like a 6 chord could potentially be minor. A 2 chord could potentially be minor. We're not going to leave any of those minor. We're going to have them all be dominant chords, in many cases altered dominant chords, and any 4 chord, there's no way we're going to make it major or a 6 or anything like that, because the more dominant chords, the greasier it's going to sound. Another rule is we basically want to make all the melody notes, so that's like the highest note in the chord, we want to make them bluesy notes. So we want to make them notes that are either in the blues scale or blues adjacent. So really like 1 minor third, 4 sharp 4, 5, 6, and flat 7 are pretty much fair game. So we don't really want to have any major thirds. Like I'm just speaking in terms of the tonic. So if we're in the key of B flat, you don't really want anything like that, or even so you don't want like a D on top of your, that's like a major third of B flat. You don't really want that on the top of your voicing, and I mean especially in this case because that's a minor chord, right? But that's better. But what's really better? That's like super greasy, right? So what did I do there? I just put a flat 9 on the C13, but that's the minor third of B flat, so it kind of contributes to that bluesy sound, right? I just thought of, as I was saying a la in the beginning, Stanley Turrentine is a great example of this kind of like blues soul jazz style. Okay. So let's dissect what I did here. So I'm playing a little bit of some fancy chords because I don't have a bass player with me. So you can simplify these chords, and I'll show you how. Like I'm adding a lot of roots, and you don't actually really have to if you're playing with an organ or a bass or whatever. So I played kind of like a B flat 13, but instead of just playing the B flat 13, I kind of hammered on the major third, right? Which is like in blues, you almost never really want to have like a perfect major third, even a minor third. You always kind of want to like be somewhere in the middle. I know there's like a Wynton Marsalis video where he kind of like dissects that, but it and the reasons why, or something like that. But yeah, it's kind of true. So we're gonna hammer on that major third, and then we're gonna go to the 6 here. But instead of just a G minor or something like that, we're gonna do a G7 sharp 9, which is one of the bluesiest chords. And we are going to slide into it, right, for maximum bluesiness. Okay, then when we get to our C7, this is a kind of little bit of an oddball because it doesn't really make sense if you look at it theoretically, but it just kind of works. So we're doing this. It's not like a great chord on its own. We have like 2 7ths here, but it just works for some reason. And we're also hammering on that minor to major third like we did in the first chord, but it has a different connotation here because that's in the key of B flat, the 4th to the sharp 4. So that's the bluesy, part of the blues scale. So we definitely want to like hammer that note on. And you don't, like I said, a lot of these you don't need the roots, especially if you're playing with other people, but I'm playing them. So we got, and then, so I like this F sus as opposed to like that one or even this one because, I don't know, it sounds bluesier. When you have that 5th in there, I've talked about this before, you want to avoid these 5ths on the guitar, especially higher up. So we're going to use that for our F sus. And okay, and then we're back to our first chord. Oh, actually, let me talk about that for a second. So basically in these kind of like bluesy styles, you never really want to have like a flat 9 on a 5 chord. I mean, at least not for like, you want to, like a very popular way to get around this 2-5 is to make it the 2 dominant and the 5 sus, which is, different than a lot of the other functional harmony that we've learned in terms of dealing with standards. But that's a very, that's a good way to do it. Instead of like 2-5 like that sounds pretty dry, right? We're going to church, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so, then we get back to our B flat 13, and then we have, I played this chord earlier. It's such a awesome chord. It's a G13 flat 9. Whew. And look at the notes we have in the melody. So the first time through, we just kept the B flat the whole time. So right? Now we're going to switch it up a little bit. We go to the flat 7, right? This A flat. And then we got like a real altered C chord here. And then for our F, I love these like 13 altered chords. So we're keeping that A flat on top for all of these chords, right? Which is the flat 7. It's a good note. It's an approved note in my aforementioned rule book. Okay, and now this song is kind of weird. It just goes straight from the 5 to the 4. So now we're gonna go, and that's a pretty standard fare, right? Where you would do that in a regular blues or something. We're just doing this regular E flat 9 chord. But again, I'm sliding into it. So slides are great for bluesing things up, right? We're sliding into it, and then I'm gonna take this Hendrix chord here, this like D7 sharp 9, right? And we're kind of going in the blues scale here, right? Right down. That's why this kind of weird thing works. We're kind of doing like a 3-6 to the 2, 3, 6. And you could actually do that too. The only difference is the root here. And then landing on the 4th here, right? I mean, that's the 4th in terms of B flat. And then I played a little bit of a different chord here. This is kind of like where I'm coming from. F, fully altered, flat 13, sharp 9. But I do this little trick in here where it's an open voicing, so you actually have no flat no sharp 9. It's actually a sharp 11 instead because you have this open B. But you can do it either way. Anyways, then we get to the turnaround, which is also an interesting thing because in a turnaround, a lot of time 3-6-2-5, 1-6-2-5, which is cool to do, and it could still be super bluesy as I've already shown you. But another cool, super way to get bluesy way to get around this chord progression is instead of 1-6-2-5 or 3-6-2-5, we go 1/3, 4, sharp 4. And then 1/5, then 6-2-5. So I'll show you how I did it. So I go, so that's our 1 chord. And then for the 1/3, it's kind of like a little bit of a diminished, but like a weird voicing. But it's basically, a B flat 7, flat 9, but with the 3rd and the bass. Okay, got it. And then we go an E flat 6. So I guess we have 1 6 chord here. And then this is a weird abbreviation of an E diminished. And then this is a abbreviation of a B flat over F. The reason why I'm doing these weird voicings here is so we can get this very bluesy counter line, which you hear, from the roots of blues, Robert Johnson, B.B. King, all that stuff. So we got, and then we're gonna do a D flat, right? That's a tritone sub, and then C7, F sus. And so yeah, these are real meat and potato chords. And then here we got the F sus, and then. All right, so that's your lesson in blues. That's your grease helping for this week. I hope you guys found that helpful. I know it's a little bit in the weeds. This is more of an advanced lesson, definitely. But as always, you have the PDF in the Patreon, which is linked below if you're watching on YouTube. And, you could also use the slow down, feature on YouTube. Don't be afraid to do that because you can just really zoom in and try and get what I'm doing. Otherwise, it's all written out on the PDF. So definitely check that out if this is moving a little too fast for you. Also do private lessons, just putting that out there so you can, sit me down and have you explain this to you one-on-one if you so desire. Anyways, thanks for tuning in to another Teaching Tuesday. Hope you guys found this video helpful. And otherwise, see you next Tuesday.